Ys VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana is a video game that holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Many consider it to be one of the best RPGs made in recent years, and even some going as far as to say it's one of the best RPGs ever made. And here I sit, trying to do another fantastic RPG justice. Another massive task ahead of me here. And let me tell you about Ys VIII. It's rather seldom when a video game exceeds my expectations just so much that it not only makes me a fan of that particular game, but shifts my entire perspective of the series in its entirety, and just amplifies my love for the other games. And through reviewing the game, I just intend to explain why 8 had such a strong impact on my feelings towards the Ys series, and why Ys is now one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. But I'm not going to completely suck this game off though. I am a man of honesty, and the truth is that there are some problems which I will get into on top of all the good stuff. But generally, I think there's a very good reason why almost everyone points to Lacrimosa of Dana being the best Ys game ever made. Anyway, before we start, the first part of this review will be spoiler-free. It's just like what we did for Lunar. For newcomers, the fun that won't be spoiled, you can breathe easy here. But near the end, I will dive a bit deeper on Ys VIII's plot, as certain details, specifically pertaining to the overall story, and especially one of the characters in particular, is it's really key to conveying my enjoyment for the game. So the game starts with the protagonist of the Ys series, Adol Kristen, and his good old buddy, Dogi, and they're aboard this ship called the Lombardia. And if you have any familiarity with the Ys series, you know Adol Kristen, any boat this guy touches might as well be renamed to the Titanic. Because fucking Adol, he touches a boat and just implodes, apparently. And that's exactly what happens in Ys VIII. A sea monster comes and attacks the ship and ends up sinking the entire thing, with everyone on board being washed ashore to the Isle of Saren. And with Adol Kristen now washed ashore of the island, it's now his job to go find some of the other castaways that have also washed ashore, and along with the captain of the ship, Captain Barbaros, and Dogi, they end up building a small little village together. But not everything is as it seems, as during the night, Adol begins to dream of this mysterious woman by the name of Dana. Who is this girl? We have no idea. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but that is generally the plot to Ys VIII. That's the setup, that's what they got going in the first hour. Now, the area where Ys games usually shine is in the adventure, and the combat, and the exploration. And Ys VIII does it very well. There's a lot of new things that are introduced into Ys VIII. One of the most notable things is that this is the first time we've had real 3D. Now, Ys VII was technically 3D, but you didn't control the camera, and so as a result, there was less of a sense of, environment. You couldn't move the camera freely, you couldn't look around your environment. And Ys VIII is fully 3D with a fully controllable camera. And the real adventure in Ys VIII is finding the other castaways that have washed ashore, like I already said. And for that objective, some of the castaways will actually join you and fight by your side. Kind of like how Ys VII, again, handled its combat, where you could have a party of people and switch between them. They all have different characteristics, they all do their unique things, and they have unique abilities to differentiate them from Adol. First of all, they each have different attack types. There's Slash, which is what Adol uses, and different characters will have piercing attacks, and others will have strike damage, like enemies that are have hard shells and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Every character also comes with their own unique set of skills that you can use as a sort of special attack. And to me, that's the real meat and potatoes of all the fun, really, is being able to use so many skills In Ys VII, you were kind of limited because getting SP was sometimes difficult unless you are a real master of the flash guard. You had to charge up a lot of attacks, and it took a while to get a lot of cool attacks out, but in Ys VIII, your SP replenishes all the time. So as a result, you're using special skills all the time. Each player will probably gravitate towards a certain set of characters as their favorite, and that's fine. I know people who have only played as Adol, really, which that's kind of like the older Ys games, so I can't really blame them. One of my favorite characters in the game is actually Hummel, and that's not because he has the most bombastic personality per se. He's just really fun to play as. I think this is the only Ys game to have a character with a firearm, and for me that was a very unique thing, and I kind of got interested in playing as the guy with the musket that could fire off 15 rounds in 2 seconds. But really, I used pretty much all the characters almost equally. They're all fun to play as. So at least for me, there's no characters that missed. I think you'll have fun using all of them, and I think you should give all of them a shot. Another mechanic that was introduced in Ys VII, which I think was vastly improved here in 8, is the collection of materials. You see, in Ys VII, collecting materials and using them to make items and stuff was all optional, because at the end of the day, you could always just spend gold to get that same item. But considering here in Ys VIII, now that you're on a deserted island, there is no currency, so instead everyone is just using raw materials to make the stuff that you want, and you have to actually worry about getting materials. In Ys VII, it was really just, well, I'm here, might as well just collect the leaf or harvest some ore, you know, that kind of thing. It wasn't a big deal. In Ys VIII, you definitely will want to keep an eye out for these harvesting points. And by finding more of the castaways, a lot of them specialize in a certain skill and will help you out directly as long as you have the materials. Speaking of the castaways, you rescue quite a lot of them, especially in the beginning of the game. And each of them have their own unique personalities and different side quests that they'll post on the bulletin board, and you can help them out, get some rewards, and most importantly, there are some really great moments with some of the side characters in Ys VIII. I was not really disappointed with the cast in this game at all. They were all at least pretty decent. I will say none of them blew me away, which I think we'll get into a little bit later, but they were all enjoyable, except Sir Carlin. Yeah, no, he can go fuck himself. Even the worst character, Sir Carlin, at least had some kind of use, as if the worst came to pass, he would make an excellent meat shield, I will say. So every character has a use. Let's go a little bit deeper into the adventuring aspect in Ys VIII. There's a lot of dungeons and a lot of different locales. That's kind of the usual for an Ys game, and they are pretty well executed here in 8. I will say the dungeons aren't the best designed in the series. I still would hand that to 7, but they're really fun to explore, and like I said, they all feel very distinct from each other, so it keeps things fresh and original throughout the game. And there are some moments where I really felt an epic scale of adventure, almost unparalleled by many games. There's only a few that I think capture the sense of adventure in some of the moments in Ys VIII where I'm like, wow, I really want to see what's there. And of course, I can't say anything in particular because it might go into spoilers, but for people who play the game, just think mountain. Just the word mountain, that's all I'm going to say. Now those who have played it know what I'm talking about. Now, with all this praise, there definitely is some problems with the gameplay. I will say, this is probably the easiest Ys game I've ever played. 8 is no problem. I should have played on Nightmare, I only decided to play on Hard. Now I kind of regret that because I had almost zero issues playing on Hard mode. And while the boss fights are all mostly interesting and well designed, the abundance of healing items that you naturally get while exploring kinda makes them a cakewalk as long as you're willing to just tank through it. It just seems to be a problem with the design of Ys VIII. There really is no getting around it. There's just so many options that inevitably it does kill the challenge a little bit because of just the versatility of Adol's party. There are also points, mostly in the first half of the game, where you will be contacted by this little parrot here for a raid, as Castaway Village is being attacked by monsters and they need Adol's help. You know, they're fun at times. The parts where they sneak him in are really annoying sometimes. If you're gonna have a raid, I'd prefer maybe putting it right before a dungeon starts rather than in the middle of me exploring one. That can be really frustrating because at that point I just want to explore the dungeon. I don't really want to go back. One thing I found absolutely hilarious though is they call you in for a raid in the middle of like one of the top 3 biggest story beats in the game. I just found that really funny. Now, whether you're a fan of action RPGs or not, there is one thing that I think is undeniable when it comes to the quality of Ys VIII, and that is the soundtrack. Holy shit, man. This might be the greatest video game soundtrack I've ever heard. I'll link the fucking playlist for the full thing in the description, and I highly recommend you check it out. Every song kills it. Now, excuse me while we take a listen on some of the greatest hits in Ys VIII. It's pretty much a given that Ys games succeed in the rockin' tunes, especially the ones jamming on with the violins and the guitars. That's all great. But Ys VIII also has plenty of more somber and emotional themes that really sell some of the story moments later on in the game. And hey, speaking of the story, let's finally get to the narrative of Ys VIII. Now, the plot in this game is what I think truly separates it from other Ys games. Now, prior entries into the franchise, they interested me more on the promise of tightly paced action and the boss fights and the sense of adventure, but Ys VIII had a completely different feeling. Again, all that I just listed is still here, and in spades, but for the first time, I was just completely fascinated by the characters and where they would end up next. And by the end of the game, I was emotionally attached to our main cast. There it is. That's the missing link that prior Ys games did not have. And I just never expected 8 to ascend to that level. Just to get this out of the way, the story isn't perfect. The cast, they're all super likable. Some of them do fall into more predictable character arcs, and they do certainly take in tropes of the genre. So it's definitely not my favorite side cast in an RPG, but like I said, they absolutely succeed at being likable. And the first half of Ys VIII also feels pretty much like a normal Ys game. It takes a while to pick up, but for me, I found the idea of rescuing castaways, banding together, and working to find a way off the island to be captivating enough to have me at least somewhat interested in the story, at least in the beginning of the game. And the second half is where things really start to pick up narratively. For a lot of people, the beginning might not be quite as interesting as it was to me, so prepare for a slow start, but trust me, just trust me, it's worth it, man. It is worth it to see the second half. Now, the absolute best part about Ys VIII's narrative, for me, and I'd say many others, is Dana. She became maybe my favorite character in this series, and in general, one of the best RPG characters I've personally ever seen in my experience playing RPGs, which I'm not a seasoned veteran yet, but I've played my fair share. And I can't spoil any of the things that happen with this character, but she is absolutely the star of the show. Alright, if you haven't played Ys VIII yet, or any Ys game, just get on this right now. Just play it. Do yourself a favor, just play the game. It's great. I had a blast with the combat, the exploration, the story, the characters, the setting. Ys VIII really doesn't drop the ball on anything. It's all at least pretty good at worst, and brilliant at best. And most importantly, don't concern yourself with the 8 in the title. Pretty much all of the Ys games are self-contained, and 8 is no exception. But to finish off this video, we're going to go just a little bit deeper into the narrative of Ys VIII, as I believe this is the most underrated aspect of the game. And I'm doing this segment assuming that you have played the game. I'm not going to do a plot summary like we did with Lunar, I'm just going to talk about stuff. Finally seeing the north side of Seiren was such a cool moment. That was... oh man, the sense of adventure, man. Let me tell you, I was playing late into the night, that particular session, and I knew I had to stop soon. I knew the time was coming up where I had to finally say, alright, it's time to go to bed. It's almost fucking 4 in the morning. And I finally did descend down, and I got to see a little bit more of the ruins. And I was, let me tell you, it was hard to fall asleep that night. I had a tough time falling asleep after seeing that. I wanted to go in there like I'm actually Adol Kristen and just explore those ruins. And there's a lot of questions raised throughout the second half, a lot of mystery. Like, what happened to Eternia? What went on here? What did them in? I assumed some villain had to be in relation to it. And when I finally saw Ura, I think that's her name, I assumed, oh, this was the person who ruined Eternia. But no, that wasn't actually the case. But what's really surprising, I guess kinda surprising, because you'd expect the second main protagonist to eventually meet up with Adol. I mean, she's kind of basically the biggest thing about the game, so you'd expect them to meet, but it is very strange to see someone from a bygone age just show up in the future, like in this scene with Dana finally meeting Adol.
Adol? Why can't I remember?
And let me tell you about Dana, man. She was a great character. And her trying and failing to save the Eternians, even when they turn on her and when they try to kill her, she still is out for the good of her people and still trying to do the right thing. It's all the makings of a great character. It's just like how Adol is a great character, but she actually speaks. A lot of Ys games, especially the modern ones, the cost of saving the world is pretty great, and Ys VIII is definitely no exception. The ending of Ys VIII really hit me hard. My mind just had so many things going through it, as the twists and turns came at you so fast. Was Dana okay? Was she really just erased? Is she gone? Did everyone just forget? And the excitement and the vigor I felt as we went on our last adventure into the Abyss, just to see her again, and the happiness when she returns. I was sincerely filled with joy in that moment. But really, it's the bittersweet that affects me the most. All of our friends, they have lives to return to. And, Dana is a goddess now. Maybe it's not the fate that we wanted. Maybe she didn't even want that fate. Anyway, after a pretty heartfelt goodbye, Adol and Dana, they part ways. I think this is the part that got me good, but it didn't quite process within my brain yet.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Actually, it was probably right about here. What you're seeing is what was on my TV as everything hit, and it really hit. I'm not ashamed to admit, I straight up cried. It was a strange feeling to cry, and I'll also admit I've shed tears a couple times before. The first two Lunar games come to mind when I think of shedding tears, but full on crying, never. I've played a lot of games, I've watched a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows, a lot of emotionally poignant endings as well, but I've never cried. I can acknowledge that the ending does have flaws. The whole thing with Maya and the dreams raises a lot of questions, and it definitely could be handled a lot better. But Donna's conclusion as a character it was out of this world for me. I loved it, even if it did fuck me up for a little bit after. And in general, the story, it really doesn't get enough credit. Ys VIII does have great gameplay, absolutely, but its narrative it's seriously up there. And it's perhaps maybe the best thing in an already stellar game. It's not perfect. I already mentioned the tropes in some of the characters, and they didn't quite hit home the way other RPGs or Dana did. Another thing I mentioned was the slow start, and to be a bit more detailed on this, you don't even meet Dana until 25 hours in. Now, I liked the story in the beginning parts, but I'll be honest, the fun gameplay mechanics and the exploration were the big reason I kept having such a great time throughout. But everything starting with the death of Captain Barbaros was where things started to get interesting narratively. Alright, to conclude, if you couldn't tell, this is my favorite Ys game to date. When I started this series in 2022 with Ys VII, I fell in love with Ys VII. When I tried to jump into the next game, Memories of Celceta, It was a completely new game, story-wise. I was disappointed that it wasn't connected at all to 7. We couldn't even have Adol's partner in 7, Dogi. Why not? That was my thought process before I knew Dogi was reoccurring. Instead, we kind of had what felt like Dollar Tree replacements. Like, that's how Durin felt for me compared to Dogi. He felt like a ripoff. When I did return to the series, I tried Oath and Felghana, and with 7 no longer fresh in my mind, I went in with no biases against the stories being self-contained, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was enough to pique my interest in the other games again. Even at the time, I knew Lacrimosa of Dana was praised by most Ys fans as the best, so I settled there. After Ys VIII ended, and I had some time to come to terms with the ending, the next thought was, what comes next? And man, the excitement was just fucking crazy. I finally got it. I finally understood. While I miss the friends that we did make in 8, and especially Donna, this was only the beginning. A fresh adventure, new lands, and filled with mystery, legends of ancient past, and the next line of memorable characters was just around the corner. And they all had the potential to surpass the last. While I don't think any new character will reach the same level as Donna, I also can't discredit the possibility. After all, I thought 7 would never be exceeded too. And hey, apologies to you, Durin. Maybe you aren't Dollar Tree Dogi. You're probably a pretty cool guy. Anyway, it's time to pass the torch over to Ys IX, Monstrum Nox, and see what it brings to the table. And when I said in the intro that Ys VIII changed my perspective on the series, that's how. Now, excuse me while I experience the next glimpse into the life of one of the most legendary and accomplished game characters of all time, Adol Kristen. Farewell, Isle of Seiren. To all the people who made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and take care.